Hello, my fellow superhero nerds. Welcome to another edition of the Daily Superhero. This is the video edition. We're going to get you an update of all the important things that have been going on here recently. I'm Nate Custer, reminding you always to check out where it all started, the website, dailysuperhero.com. So let's get you caught up. I know that I've been off for a little while. I'm back to business and taking care of what we need to here. So we'll start off with X-Men, the final movie that we've seen of this recent trilogy, XMen Apocalypse. This thing has definitely made a lot of money. However, there are folks who are saying this kind of considering a flop because it has made as much money as the last movie did. However, here's the thing. Overseas sales are surging the money this movie is making. $400 million to date at this point after this weekend. It's the second week of domestic release. Here in the United States, only $22 million. That is certainly not keeping up with the pace of the previous chapter that we saw in the franchise, but overseas sales certainly helping things out tremendously, and it's doing quite well. Not a flop by any means at this point, so keep that in mind. The franchise is likely safe at this point, but it might give the makers of the movies reason to pause at this moment in time to think if this one's not doing quite as well as the previous chapters, because the goal is always to outdo it as far as money goes what the previous one did. Maybe they need to take a look at what they're doing, the different tacks they're taking with this, and maybe think about, obviously recasting is always an option. Different directors and writers might be a big choice here to look at. We'll have to wait and see what the future holds for the franchise, but at this point it is making money, just not as much as they'd like to see here domestically, and U.S. ticket sales usually a pretty good determinant of what's going to be successful elsewhere around the world, though not always, as we're seeing in this case, because the overseas sales is doing quite well, helping the franchise out. And it's not one that 20th Century Fox wants to see the X-Men brand diminish in any way, shape, or form. So you know they'll be on top of this one for the future. Now, something 20th Century Fox is dealing with at this time, and it's not something that's gone well for them, is the promotional materials have been campaigning for the movie at this point, the campaign for the movie, and that is the image, very strong image, where we see Jennifer Lawrence held by her throat by the villain of the film, Oscar Isaac's Apocalypse. This has gotten a lot of outrage, actually, and specifically, actress Rose McGowan spoke out about this because it promotes a casual violence against women, is what she was saying about this. So that has caught a lot of attention, and if you look at the materials, it is a very stark image and very tough to look at. Now, here's the thing. Fox, very quick to react to this, issuing an apology and pulling those promotional images down, trying to get rid of it, and they actually said something about this, apologizing, saying, quote, apologizing for the upsetting connotation of this image. So you know they're taking it seriously, and they want to get rid of that image as quickly as possible, but it is already out there. That's something we're going to have to deal with for the future to come, but at least they're pulling those images now. Moving on, let's go and talk about this. As y'all know, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, so this is something I'm super excited about. Star Wars Rogue One, yes, we've heard the rumors. We know what's going on at this point. The reshoots, you've heard all about them. 4 to 5 weeks is what we're hearing about these reshoots at this point. Now, this is making fanboys like myself nervous as can be. I'm talking full-on fanboy sweat like the first time a pretty girl sat down next to you. But the thing is, you don't have to worry about it because these reshoots, apparently, as we're learning from all the different gossip sites out there, were always part of the plan. You could say, is maybe that a way to deal with the fury that's going around this thing as people are so worried about this franchise? Maybe that's the case, but it seems like it makes a lot of sense because a lot of big budget movies incorporate the reshoots. They schedule them even before the first frame has been shot of the movie. So that's something that we can recognize as a very real possibility that this is legit. It sounds legit to me. Force Awakens had reshoots that were scheduled before they even did those, and we all know how well that movie turned out. But here's the deal. The Mouse, not going to let this franchise go down easily. They're going to make sure that they have taken care of every single prospect that could arise for anything, any sorts of troubles. So the reshoots would be scheduled. They always usually take care of that with scheduling the actors to make sure they have that availability as well. So we should probably go along with the thought here that as the quiet, chatter has been from the industry that yes, this is just how things work these days. It's part of modern day filmmaking, especially for big budget movies, that maybe there's a shred of truth to this thing. And it seems likely and legit that that's the case. So don't worry too much. And of course, the pace of the movie and how it's being made is actually outpacing the rate at which Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens was done, so we shouldn't worry too much about them being able to make sure this movie gets out for that December release, as we've been told it's coming. Cannot wait for this film. So are we nervous about the reshoots? No, we're good at this point. Don't even pay another bit of attention to it, so we should be good with that. Okay, now, I want to talk about more in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thor Ragnarok. This is the next chapter, the third Thor movie. And of course, as you recall, if you watched Civil War, you know that there was a very obvious mention that Thor and the Hulk not around for the Civil War film. They weren't around. They even mentioned it in the movie, but we know they've been dealing with things elsewhere, and Ragnarok is going to shed some light on what they've been dealing with. And also, here's the good news. Tom Hiddleston, one of the greatest characters in this whole franchise, just because he plays Loki so well, and he's got this smarmy quality about him that is so cool in that role. He delivers his lines with such authority and just smugness. It's so perfect. Anyway, he's back, and he was talking at Wizard World in Philly about his character Loki and what we can expect when he gets back for this next film for Ragnarok. And he's saying, hey, Loki's a mischievous individual. He always has been. It's the core of who he is. You can expect more of that and how he finds new ways to be mischievous. So, again, expect more of Loki being Loki. That's good news. And on top of that, he talks about an encounter with, yes, the Hulk. The last time these two saw each other, Loki learned what Hulk smash means and how much it hurts even if you're a god. He says Loki, his character, has got some chips on his shoulder still, and it should make for some great film-watching moments for the audience. I can't wait to see this. And finally, let's go and wrap this up. Justice League, the name rumors. My gosh, I can't believe how much has been said about this at this point. So here's the deal with this. The rumors were out there after Zack Snyder and the release of Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice came out. He said that Justice League was just possibly a working title. At this point, it was just a working title when he was talking about it. So then all the rumors started coming out from everybody. You know, somebody's cousin who worked at some other place was saying, hey, this is what I heard about it. And they're saying that this is the different names that we've seen come out. Well, here's the thing. We thank Twitter for providing some clarity on this, and I'm going to quote actually on this so I can get it just right. DC Entertainment CCO and DC Films co-head Jeff Johns took to Twitter on Friday, and he had this to say, dropping the hammer for us all to know exactly what's going on. Quote, clearing up any misconceptions, the Justice League movie is called Justice League. Then he went on to tag at Ben Affleck, at Gal Gadot, at Zack Snyder, happy Friday. And that's what he had for us. Hammer, dropped, better than a mic drop because it makes more noise. That's what happened with that, and now we know what's up. That's another update here, Daily Superhero on YouTube, and I look forward to you checking out the website, dailysuperhero.com. My thanks to you, and I'll see you in the next installment.